so I can adjust the size of the frame for the door, okay? You always want these to the interior of the building because we're going to want to make the adjustment. These simply just snap together. Oops, excuse me. Rubber to the outside, thumb wheels to cam locks to the inside. I just want to simply, I don't want to loosen these too far because they'll pop out, so be careful of that. I just want to loosen up just a little bit. These are nice frames too. So my frame's put together. I'm going to bring it over to my hole. Now, I don't have 4 arms, so I can't do 4 adjustments at the same time, right? I see people struggle with this all the time. I always want to be here. I don't want to be here, right up against the leather stripping. So I'm simply going to place it there. I'm going to put my foot here, so I don't want it to raise up, and I'm going to make one adjustment, and I'm going to tighten this side. Okay? Now I can just let go of that side. I'm going to slide my frame over. I always like to do my up and down first, but I always want to put my foot there. I don't want to step on it. I just want to just snug. Side to side. In the bottom. Now in new construction, everything's new. Paint's brand new. I'm not going to take this out and lean it on doors or lean it on the wall. Builders hate that. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. This is our shroud. It's got a big hole in it. So do you guys think that the Velcro should be up or down?
Up.
Should be up. I'm going to lay this on the floor. And my frame basically goes in one position here. This is where my frame needs to set. This is where it's going to get Velcroed around the frame, right? I simply want to pull this out of the door. That's my bottom. I'm going to place my bottom here and just lock it in. When I start Velcroing, I'm going to start down here because I'm limited to where I need to be. Center up my frame. The key to this is just making sure that the shroud fits around the frame. Okay? Doesn't have to be perfect and pretty. Just needs to simply cover this. Somebody want to pull the top and flap that over? Snug it up a little bit. Do the sides. Okay. I'm going to pick it back up and put it back in the hole. Now, I don't really care about the Velcro. I can undo this so I can get my hands in here easily. And I want to tighten that cam lock. Tighten that cam lock. This is my center bar. This is what my fan is going to suspend on. Okay, there's a piece of Velcro to wrap around the handle so I can lift it up. This has a little hook, needs to hook in. And on this one, it's kind of odd because if you put it front to front, like so, it's kind of crooked. So I always just go front to back. Doesn't really matter. Then I'll spread these a little bit, tighten the wheel, and engage that. Okay? So our frame is set to go now. And we have a piece of Velcro here. I can just sand it up. Keep that out of my way for now. So this is a Retrotec 1000.
How about our tube to the outside?
Yeah, I just wanted to show you this first. So here's our cups. These cups can be pulled out. When we do a baseline reading, I'm going to show you a quick baseline, but it's not required as of yet. When you guys get into new construction, there's a whole slew of protocols on baselining and taking 5 different baseline readings. Altitude correction factors if you're above 5,000 feet, knowing what the temperature difference is between the inside and the outside, and there's different calculations for that. We don't really get into that in alterations because this test is not required in alterations. We simply want to know that you can use a blower door, because when you guys get back into class and you start talking about duct leakage, we subsequently could be using this for duct leakage to outside testing. Okay. And these have different rings. These are bungee strapped in. So this would be open, that's ring A, that's ring B, this is ring C8, and then these have different configurations that go all the way from C6, C4, L6, L4, and so on, to if you have a really tight house. But most of the time, I just remove that ring, and personally, I usually start in the middle. I don't usually start open, because it never works that way. Like she said, once you get comfortable with kind of knowing a house, you'll kind of know where to start. I usually start about the B ring, somewhere in there. It's really a preference thing. So the next thing I need to do, so for Retrotec, they have what's called an umbilical cord. And it has two ends. Obviously, one end has a long tube on it, so where might that go?
Outside.
This one's going to go outside. So on our curtain, we have a hole here, and we have a hole over here. That's where our tube is going to go, okay?
Either side.
Either side. One of the things that you need to be aware of is in new construction, a lot of times, there's going to be no landscaping yet. It could be raining outside. You don't want to be throwing this off to the side and into a puddle of water or mud, okay? Because you want to protect that hose. So for this scenario, I have a nice deck here. I'm simply going to put it on the deck. I don't want this hose to be sitting right here. My air's going to be passing there. So I want it at least 5 feet off to the side of the fan and away from the airflow. Okay? Simply shove that through there and pull a little amount, and I'll just toss it off to the side. If it's really windy outside, again, a bottle, shoe, a little box, something to shield it from the wind, but still keep it connected to the outside is preferable. Okay.
The other shock penetration doesn't need to be sealed off, that you could use left, right hole.
That little hole?
Yeah.
No, that's so minute.
All right.
Okay, so we're ready to install our fan. So I'm simply just going to tip this back, kind of place it on my shoe, and work the shroud around it. Like so, I'm going to take this Velcro, put it around the handle, and I'm going to lift the fan.
Why do you place it on your shoe?
Just so I could tip it back.
Okay. I just figured I'd ask since anybody else had questions about the reason why.
Okay, so the next step would be to make my connections. So I'll connect this side first. One of the things with the Retrotec is that they do have a data cable. So I can plug into my manometer what I want this to pressurize or depressurize to, and it's going to turn on and it's going to ramp it up to that pressure for me. I don't have to manually adjust anything. Okay, that's what this data cable is for. Doesn't matter which hole it gets plugged into. The yellow is going to hook into my fan port here. Okay, this is going to be reading what?
Fan flow.
Fan flow. In?
Relation to the outside.
No. What is it going to read? Pascals? Is it going to read CFM? What is it going to read?
Your fans see it.
It's going to read CFM. So the sensor on this motor will be telling this tube to my manometer what the resulting CFM is at the pressure that I'm pressurizing or depressurizing. Okay. All right. In Appendix E, this is where you guys are going to want to be. It doesn't really matter which. For the Retrotec, it's pretty much the same places to attach the hoses. Okay. The mode device configuration may be a little bit different, but not much, and I'll show you the differences there. So for the blower door, this is where I want to make sure that you guys understand that depending on what you have for hose colors here, they might not always match up. Sometimes Retrotec sends a blue hose instead of a red one, but their literature says red tube. Okay? So if you look at your guide, you're going to see if we were to use that umbilical cord on another piece of equipment, we may be tied to the blue instead of the red, with a red tube. So it's always a good idea to know why it is you're hooking it up to a certain place and understand the reasoning behind that. Okay? So for this one, for the basic duct leakage test, you'll see that it's hooked to blue and yellow to fan. But if you go over to blower door, the red is attached, which is referencing the outside, and the yellow is attached. So the yellow stays the same, but the red kind of moves. Okay? So let me grab a DM32. So on this gauge, it's pretty much the same as those. These are my input taps on the outside. This is input channel A, this is input channel B. This is reference A, this is reference B. Okay? So 2 channels. So my red will hook into my red because I am referencing the outside with respect to the inside. Okay? So when we start moving air out of here, is the house going to be negative or positive?
Negative.
Negative. So reading through this port will give me a resulting negative number up here. Okay? And then this one's simply going to go to yellow, which is going to be reading my CFM. And I'll plug my data cable in. The other thing too is that if you have a like in this bedroom here, there's an open closet, but normally there may be a bypass closet door there. Well, there's a crawl space there. There's an attic hatch. We always want to make sure that those closet doors are open so that we're introducing any air that may pass by that attic hatch also. Okay. All right, once you guys come on in a little closer here. All right, so this is the face screen you're going to see when you come up to the, when you turn this machine on. There's my 10-second time average. Okay, the time averaging really occurs right now when I'm baselining. And when I baseline, I want to make sure that all the cups are in and all the rings are installed, like this. Okay. To set up the machine, so this is our piece of equipment. This is a Retrotec 1000. If I need to change this piece of equipment, there's all my rings. I just simply change device. So if I were going from a blower door back to a duct tester, I would simply choose the DU200 because that's what my duct tester is. I would choose that. And it's going to ask me, what ring do you want to select? Well, I'm going to choose the center one. Now it's chosen, I'm done. I just need to set my pressure to 25 and go. Okay? But since we're using a blower door, that is a Retrotec 1000, see all the ring configurations I have available to me here? Okay, so right now, I would probably start off by removing C8 and doing ring B. So I'd choose that one.
Roy, when you said you went to baseline, don't you have to turn the fan on to calibrate the instrument for baseline?
Yes, I'm just showing you how to do the ring first.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how you would choose a ring configuration. If I were to do a baseline on this, I simply press the settings button, and at the top here is baseline, and none have been taken yet. So I'm going to select this, and I want to capture a baseline. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start, and it starts to count. This is where the 10-second time average period comes into play. Okay, I want to wait at least 10 seconds before I capture my first baseline reading. Once I capture it, I'm going to end it, and I'm going to go back. Come on. And go back. So right now, that baseline reading of negative 4.9 is captured in the manometer, and my manometer is going to adjust for that. Okay? I'm going to clear the baseline out of there because when you're in new construction and you're doing baselines, you have to take 5 baseline readings. And then you take the highest and subtract the lowest, and you have an adjusted baseline reading. Okay? I don't want to get too far into that because you'll get into details on that in new construction. Just know that that baseline, there's a couple different methods. This is considered a single point test. Okay? If conditions were too windy outside and my resulting baseline was over 10 pascals, I may shield that from wind, or I may redo my baseline measurements to try to get it down below 10, because what happens is if my baseline, adjusted baseline is over 10 pascals, I cannot do a single point test because the level of accuracy is greatly reduced. Okay? What happens at that point is that we can do a multi-point test, which is much more complicated. It utilizes software that both the Energy Conservatory and Retrotech, they have a software program that we plug all of our numbers into, and that does all the calculations for us on what our reduced level of accuracy would be. We want to avoid multi-point testing at all costs. It's just, it's a long process, okay? So you can either redo your baseline readings, there's nothing wrong with that, or simply shield that so that wind conditions don't affect your pressure reading so much, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna just shut this down and just turn it back on because of that baseline. Okay, so we have our, remember we said mode device configuration. Well, this one's pretty smart. Our mode, we're already in our mode. We want to, that CFM 50 that we talked about, or at 50, that function happens after I turn the machine on this particular brand. So I'm gonna set pressure, and we wanna depressurize to what? 50, plug 50, and set. And plug it in. Power's always good.
Sure.
So Roy, the baseline was basically just the interior pressure with relation to the outside pressure.
It is actually, it's reading the outside, what the wind, how the wind's affecting the outside pressure.
Okay.
That's what that's doing. Okay, so my machine started up. There's a little button right here that has a circle. That's my app feature. I'm going to click that, and that just changed that to CFM at 50. Okay? So even though, it's a good idea to do that. So even though this may not be right at 50, this is still reading it as though if we're at 50 pascals. Okay? So this thing will ramp up and then it'll come back down. And when I'm in that range, I'm simply just going to press it to hold and freeze that frame. So see how we have
Top number has to just be right at 50, or
it could be close. Be as close as you can because you're documenting this. You're snapping a photograph and you're entering these results into the registry. I'm happy with that right there.
That's taking it on a 10-second average. So you already had it
Well,
set.
you can, here's the deal. What the 10-second or what the average period does, you can set it for different levels. You can set it for 1 minute if you want. But what's going to happen is you're not going to get an instant result here. It's going to wait 1 minute and then it'll give you a new result. And then it's going to wait another minute and give you another. I don't want to sit here and wait 5 minutes to figure out where I'm at. So I want a low time average period to get to my number quickly, and then I can hold that.
so it's preset for 10 seconds.
It is
off the
right.
bat.
It is right now. Yeah.
We don't have to set it.
Well, you will initially, because there's different time average periods you can set in. So essentially, at negative 50 pascals, I have 1,342 CFM of leakage here. That's pretty average for this size of a house. But I don't know what it is without a CF1R. Now, in BPI land, I can take that number and do a math calculation to tell the homeowner, hey, you have a 10-inch hole in your home based on that CFM number. That's a hole to the outside 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You could do a calculation that tells you how big a hole you have. But for Title 24, we just simply, those calculations are done in Energy Pro and modeled that way. Okay? So I'm definitely taking a picture. I'm taking a picture of my setup here. I can see what ring is installed, and I'm taking a picture of my manometer because I can see what device I have. I can see that ring B is installed. See the B down below? And then I have my resulting numbers of my pass or fail. That's all I need here. This test is done. I'm tearing down and moving on to the next test. That was $275 right there. Right?
Average,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, average.
Does that include your cost of how much it costs to register and everything?
I'm just saying that's about what a builder would be charged to perform this.
Then you
test.
got your overhead and all the other stuff that you need to take care
Yeah,
of.
well, what you charge is up to you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys can search out the internet. A lot of raters online or on their CalSearch registry have websites you can go to, and they have their prices right on there, so you can kind of gauge what the industry's doing out there.
The registry formula we said was like 250 or something like that, and when you go through the whole thing at the end of this class, it'll say, you get charged for that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as who pays for the forms, remember yesterday there was an initial $20, and then there's a $2 per form charge. Whoever's eating the cost of that needs to pass that to either the builder, or the builder needs to pass that to the homeowner. It depends on who's paying for it. That's between you and your customer on who's doing that. All right, that's the gist of the blower door right there. Okay.
So